And the Word was made flesh. When I was growing up, my mom and dad both smoked Chesterfields. No filters. It was culturally in fashion at the time, even recommended by the medical profession. Everybody smoked something. My uncle was a cigar man, R.G. Dunn's or White Owls by the box. His pickup truck always smelled of them, but I sort of enjoyed the smell. A friend who came to the farm to hunt squirrels in the woods smoked a pipe, and for some reason I liked that smell. The tobacco, the slow ritual of it. As a teenager, staying overnight at a friend's home, his father, the civics teacher, his mother, the English teacher at the high school I would later attend, Randy offered me my first cigarette. I didn't like the taste or what it did to me, so I never tried to make it a habit. Into my late teens and early 20s, I would smoke a cigar here and there, and eventually a pipe with a cherry blend tobacco I really liked. I was no different from the young people today who've turned to vape. They probably have no idea what a real pipe even looks like. When I moved to Chicago, there was a shop with their own special blend of pipe tobacco. I believe it was called 4 Star, and it became my favorite. When I went to work in a real estate office, it seemed everyone smoked cigarettes, and I came in with a pipe. The unfortunate thing was that many people in the office didn't like the smell. They let me know. By that point, I was already somewhat addicted, and a fellow salesman introduced me to Tareytons. Their slogan was, "Us Tareyton smokers would rather fight than quit." TV advertising was a man with a black eye. Talk about a marketing campaign. I left one group, the pipe smokers, and joined another, cigarette smokers. Looking back now, I can see clearly what was happening. What a person will do to belong. The only difference between me and everyone else in that office is that I accepted what was not good as if it were good. Those words and the actions of the world around me had become part of my fleshly being. That was the spiritual inheritance I was carrying. Smoking became a way of life until laws were established that outlawed it in certain places. Airplanes, restaurants, eventually everywhere. That was genuinely hard for me, because I had grown up in a culture that called this thing good. Now all of a sudden it was not so good. I began to notice where I held the cigarettes. My fingers had gone yellow. I had a smoker's cough. I felt terrible, but I would not admit it. Slowly, something began to shift. I could no longer pretend that what I was doing was not doing what it was doing. The evidence was in my body, in the research on cancer and heart disease, in the yellow stain on my fingers. And then there was the price. Every time the cost of cigarettes went up, I would stop buying them. Not out of conviction, not yet, but out of something more like reluctant fasting. The wallet said no when the will could not. I didn't recognize it as fasting at the time. I only knew that the space created by not having them was different from the space of having them. Something could move in that space that couldn't move before. I would return to buying them when I felt I deserved a reward. Cigarettes were a reward system for me, along with many other substances. But the fasting, even when I broke it, had begun its work. To just quit is not as easy as it sounds. The inheritance runs deep. You don't just decide your way out of it. I would try to quit and be drawn right back. If I was somewhere trying to stay away from cigarettes and I saw someone smoking, I would ask to borrow one. Most smokers would oblige, but if I bought a pack, I would smoke the entire pack, so I could not buy one. It was as if I was trapped in a world I could not get out of. The desire for a cigarette was overcoming what I knew, in clear moments, was not good for me. Before anything could truly change, something else had to happen first. I had to become honest, not with anyone else, but with myself, about what I was actually carrying. The inheritance I had received from the culture around me had told me this thing was normal, even good. I had believed it, lived it, built a life around it. And before the teachings of Jesus could reach me where I actually lived, I had to be willing to look clearly at what those inherited words had made of my flesh. That recognition that what I had been given as true was not actually true was not a conclusion. It was a beginning. The psyche has to become honest about what it is holding before it can receive anything different. So I began to negotiate with it honestly, not to manage it, but to truly look at it. What was it actually doing to me? What was actually in what I was putting into my body? What did I actually want when the craving hit? I began asking questions I had not let myself ask before. I began looking for answers I had been avoiding. And the answers, once I started genuinely searching for them, did not hide. They came, not all at once, not in a single revelation, but in accumulation. Perhaps 5,000 small discoveries, then 5,000 more. Moments of clarity. Instances where what was true became a little more real than what I had inherited. Each one small, each one necessary, and slowly, not by force of will alone, but by the repeated practice of seeing clearly, discovery after discovery after discovery, the hold began to loosen. I was no longer fighting something from the outside. Something inside had begun to change. The inheritance that had been placed in my flesh by the words and actions of the world around me was being replaced by something that had come from a very different direction. The new words and actions were entering my flesh the same way the old ones had. Slowly, repeatedly, through practice, an encounter, an accumulated seeing. That is how the word becomes flesh. Not in a single moment of decision, but in 10,000 small turnings toward what is actually true. And what had been written into my being by the world began, one small discovery at a time, to be written over by something that did not pass away.